Hello and welcome to the Rangers Review morning briefing with me, Johnny McFarlane. Today I'm joined by Mr. Chris Jack. Welcome, Chris.
Morning, Johnny. How are we?
Very good, Chris. It was a wee bit of a late one last night, so I'm feeling a bit dusty. Blow off some of the cobwebs with some good chat, I think, is the way forward.
I'll try my best.
We've both got young children, so we're both experiencing this kind of weird netherworld of half sleep that exists, despite being old farts who have lived their lives without these kind of problems up till now. Here we are, Chris. This is the decisions we make in life, isn't it?
I was watching Scooby-Doo at 6 o'clock this morning, so my day's off to a flyer already.
Scooby-Doo, mate. Jeez, she's doing well with that. I mean, I'm on Teletubbies and Blippi and Miss Rachel, and it's all mind-bending stuff.
The old ones are the best.
Aye. Well, listen, let's not talk about this. Let's not dwell on our pain. Well, what's the news today? First things first, James Bisgrove has been all across the media today. Now, these are comments that were made, obviously, at the press conference on Tuesday. So Bisgrove talking about a number of things, Chris. I'm going to get your reaction. It's quite a bit about recruitment and looking for answers as to why Michael Beale was given, or if indeed he was given, carte blanche to go out and spend money in the summer. This is what James Bisgrove had to say. He said, "The reality is that decisions were taken in terms of the summer transfer window a period of time, 3 months, 6 months, a year even before, by the scouting team and even the previous director of football working with the manager. They put that plan in place. There was involvement from the scouting team, the chief scout, and the former director on the football side. The manager was at the heart of that, but it wasn't only the manager taking the decisions. So when we got to the transfer window, it was very clear what we were going to do. What's fair to say is the results and the performances have not met expectations, but it's also fair to say there's 30 league games to play this season, and there's a lot to play for in terms of the League Cup, European football, and Scottish Cup. We believe we've not seen the best from the squad. We believe it's a strong squad with a lot of potential, and we hope Philippe is the man to get the best out of it." So I suppose James Bisgrove is kind of trying to bust some myths there about Michael Beale just being given the freedom. We were talking about this yesterday in a little bit of detail, Chris, myself and Joshua. There's obviously players in there that are Michael Beale productions. Sterling, for example, that's going to be a Michael Beale signing. But there's others that we know that have come into the building that have been on Rangers' radar for quite a long time. The example I used yesterday was Cyril Dessers, who admitted himself on arriving at the club that Rangers have been a possibility for a number of years. And I think actually somebody said Jack Butland was the same, although I can't actually recall him saying that. So it does suggest to you that it's not like Michael Beale's just plucked these names out and said, I want him. What's your take on these comments?
I think James is also trying to find positives in a situation where, if you look at the recruitment in general, I don't think there are many positives. Now, we've spoken often enough about who the good ones are. You mentioned Jack Butland there, certainly falls into that category. He's head and shoulders above everyone. I think Sema has come on to a game and has proven that he's definitely got something. I know Josh has got a piece on Sema going on the website later on today, so urge people to go and check that one out. And I think you're seeing an end product from Sema that shows that he can be an important part of this squad. The rest of them, they either have questions to answer or people have already made up their minds. You mentioned Dessers there, Johnny. I just feel to see what Michael Beale, and no matter how many recruitment staff went into that signing, I feel to see what they saw in Dessers to suggest he's going to be the man that's going to score you the goals, that's going to win the league title. It just doesn't look there. Obviously, Clement mentioned the other day there, everyone gets a clean sheet. It doesn't matter whether you're Belgian or you're Scottish, whether you're 30 or you're 18, as he put it. You're going to get a chance to impress, but there's a lot of these guys have a long way to go to convince the fans that they're going to have any part to play in a successful Rangers side. So I don't think we can write off everyone that came in over the summer, but I think there's certainly a lot of them who it's just really hard to see where Rangers think they're going to get that value from. And if you think $3.5 million on Lammers, 4.5 on Dessers. I think the money spent on Danilo should come okay. I think there's definitely a player in there. Hopefully he's back sooner rather than later. Now that he's got his mask fitted, and I think we'll definitely get value out of Danilo. The other two, in terms of the attacking, in terms of Lammers and Dessers, personally, I just don't see it. And the manager has now been tasked with getting the best out of this squad. But if the man that signed them, if the man that scouted them for months and months, sat down with them and convinced them, this is how you're going to play, this is how I'm going to build the team around about you. If Michael Beale can't get anything from them in the first couple of months of the season, it's hard to see what Clement can now come in and head at them and suddenly find a huge upturn. But that's certainly one of his main boxes that he has to tick, because if he can't get a tune out of them, Rangers are left with a really hefty bill because they're not going to get that money back on these guys.
Yep. We mentioned Sema there, and William White's asking, do we have a chance to buy Sema at the end of his contract? We don't have a contract clause there that says Sema can be purchased by Rangers. I think Brighton are very deliberate in putting him to Rangers. They're doing that for a reason. And I think they would plan on taking him back and having another look at him and maybe putting him out on loan again if they had to. Although I think actually his contract's only maybe got another year to run after the end of this season. So you never know. Would you consider purchasing Sema if it was an option, based on what you've seen so far, Chris?
It does almost sum up Rangers' fortunes in the transfer window, that apart from Butland, the one that actually looks like a player is the one that they've not actually spent the money on and signed in a full-year contract. I think Sema has shown, certainly over the last few weeks, as he's got that end product. I think he's still very raw. He's still very there's still definitely rough edges to his game. We know that he's quick. We know that he's direct. I think it will take a bit more to convince that he's going to be a really integral part of a successful Rangers side. But I think in the last few weeks he's definitely shown that there's something there. But we knew that before we signed him. If you look at the pedigree, look at where he's played before, you know that there's definitely a bit of quality there. The boy definitely has talent, and then comes down to the right system, right manager, right environment for him to get that talent out of him. I think if he can continue to go from strength to strength, and we're talking, and perhaps come January, and he's maybe scored another 5-6 goals, he's then become a really important part of the team. The problem with that, as we say, because he's only on loan, other people then take interest in him. You only have to think back to Malik Tillman to know that if a player comes in on loan and he impresses, we know how that can end. It then becomes a big sell for that player to then continue his career at Rangers. Also becomes a big ask financially for Rangers as well. So as much as I like him, and I think there's definitely something there, it's probably hard to see unless he stalls, in which case you don't really want him. If he kicks on again and you do want him, I think there's every chance that Rangers then unfortunately miss out.
It's strange to me that Rangers have sort of swapped one erratic good finisher for another. Fashion Sakala going out the door and Sema coming in. And it's not hard to see the kind of parallels between the two of them. They're both kind of frustrating, capable of a moment of magic, but at the same time capable of making you want to tear your hair out. So one for another, I don't know. You're almost, you can see it from a financial point of view. You're bringing in £3.5 million for Sakala, and then getting a guy in on loan who's hopefully going to deliver the same amount of goals. But they are very similar in a lot of ways, I think, in terms of the way they play. Both good finishers. Listen, Chris, one of the things that's been going around, and I've noticed this a lot, people talking about Birmingham City, obviously just been taken over by Wayne Rooney. And a lot of rumours suggesting that Jack Butland will be targeted by them. Now, one thing I think people have missed is that in one of your long read pieces earlier this season, you talked about Jack Butland and potential interest, didn't you?
I think it's something that Rangers are not bracing themselves for, but I think it's something that Rangers are fully aware of. I think if you look at how that Butland deal was done, it ticked a lot of boxes for Jack because it got him first team football. It got him the chance to come up and compete for medals. That was a big thing that he spoke about when he first signed. It gets some European action, and it puts him back in a short window. Now, he is only early 30s. He's still got a long time to go in the game. and I would be amazed if there's not interest in him come the end of the season. Because he ticks boxes for English teams as well. Now they've got certain criteria like Rangers do in terms of European squads. He's not going to command massive wages in Premier League terms, but he is hugely experienced. He's a big figure. He's a presence, and he's clearly still a very, very good goalkeeper. I think that could turn out to be a good deal for Rangers in terms of they brought in somebody that's going to replace Alan McGregor. He's come in. He's been great. He's done everything that's been asked for him in terms of on the field. But I think that there might be almost an unexpected financial side to that. Now, also Rangers won't want to lose him, and if they were going to lose him, it will cost Birmingham a fair whack. He's under a long-term contract, and we know that he's happy here. So it's something I think Rangers have had on their minds almost since the day that Jack Butland signed. It was not a case of we're signing a guy at 38 and we're going to get 2-3 good seasons out of him, and then that's it. When you sign him with that profile, I think there was always the chance that other teams would have a look at him. So hopefully it doesn't come to fruition, because if he wasn't there, things would be a whole lot worse this season, because he's also been a hugely impressive figure and performer for Rangers. I don't think it's something they have to worry about in January. Now, Rangers won't want to sell him midway through a season, certainly when there's still a title to be won and also cups and hopefully a European campaign on the go as well. But it would be interesting if someone put a several £1 million offer on the table. It becomes a big call to make.
Yeah, well, Aldo's coming in and chipping in with a £25 million valuation. So Birmingham are going to have to stump up some serious cash. Chris, I mean, he's 30. So in terms of his value, you think Rangers might be tempted if someone came in with an offer over 8 million, 9 million, that type of ballpark?
It's hard to put a figure on. Ultimately, he's only worth what someone's willing to pay. But I think if you look at the English market, who knows what teams are willing to pay? Now you can always pluck numbers out of thin air and say to an English team, "Do you fancy it?" And they'll think, actually okay," and they'll go for it. So it's hard to actually put a number on it. I think if someone was to offer 25 million, as Aldo said there, I can give you James Bisgrove's phone number, and I'm sure he'd be delighted to help broker that particular deal. But I think Rangers won't want to lose him, because he's also signed up for a long term. He's going to be an important part of Rangers going forward. The fans have clearly taken to him. He's clearly taken to the city and to the club. So I don't think it's something we have to worry about just now. But it might be something that comes on the agenda.
Yeah, he's on a 4-year deal, Chris. So it's not like Rangers be under any pressure whatsoever to deal him in or ship him on. It's a case that at least another season before anything is having to be worried about with regards to that. So that's a fascinating one. We'll see how it pans out. But we've seen how valuable English goalkeepers are to these squads, as you say, down in the Premier League. And listen, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 15 million. It's peanuts. It's like Rangers going out and snapping up a 1.5 million signing from one of the other clubs in the Scottish Premiership, isn't it? It's such little money to them. They're looking at like a £30 million signing as kind of a standard Premier League level signing now. It isn't until you get to 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 that you're starting to see the mega bucks being splashed. So yeah, I mean, it's a fascinating one. People saying Rangers don't have any assets, but Chris, I'm a great believer that we don't really know this squad. I don't know what you feel about this. Of course, we're making early judgments. I think we've been pretty honest about players like Cyril Dessers and Sam Lammers on this podcast and how they've performed to date. But at the same time, it is still mid-October. It is still too early to say they can't do it. Now, we can say we think they might not do it, but he did say, the manager, the other day when he was asked, everyone's got that white sheet of paper. And you wonder if, as always is the case, there will be people who impress this manager that surprise us. Mm-hmm. Is that fair?
I think so, because that's the chance that everyone now has. I think the fans have almost made their minds up on a number of the squad, and it's not just as I said a couple of times, it's not just some of the new signings that people are now losing their rag with. as some of the more established ones. Also, the manager was asked about James Tavernier as captain the other day there. I thought he answered it perfectly reasonably. I didn't expect him to come in, take the armband off the guy that's had it since 2018, and then suddenly change captain. I don't think that was realistic. But you saw some of the reaction to those quotes in that answer online, and people were demanding that a change is made and that Tav is shipped out. It's not going to happen right now. That's not to say that Tav will still be a huge part of the squad in 3 seasons. The same with Goldson, same with Barisic, same with Jack, same with Lundstrom. There's guys that are, everybody in that squad is now playing for the future, and that relates to Sam Lammers as a new signing, or Dessers as a new signing, or Cifuentes as a new signing, as much as it does to Tav, Goldson, and some of the ones that are lined off there. There's no one that's bigger than the team. There's no one that's bigger than the club. But I think it's only fair that the manager comes in and gives everybody a chance to impress. I think the first couple of weeks, it's almost ticking off the games, not doing anything silly, trying to improve performance levels, and also crucially get results, because we know any slip up domestically is now hugely costly. And another one in terms of Europe puts us in a really tricky position after that result in Cyprus as well. So these first couple of weeks, he just has to get performance levels up, get confidence levels up, and tick off the matches. We need to see a style from him. We need to see this attacking, dominant style of football that he outlined in his presser the other day there. I think once you then get towards the end of the year, heading into the January window, I think it'll become evident who the key men as he sees it are. You will see guys who will have very little game time, as we did when Michael Beale came out. You had to give everyone a chance early on, but then some people naturally tailed off, and it became evident who was going to leave the club at the end of the season. So I think we will see that from Clement over the next few weeks. January, as we've said, is not the ideal time to go and start rebuilding a squad. I think if Rangers do 2 or 3, I'd be surprised. I think that's probably their limit. But then that feeds into what's going to be done next summer. How much money is there next summer? How does a new director of football see it? How does the manager see it? So there's a lot of moving parts in terms of transfers once again for Rangers. But the foundation is there for anyone who wants it, who is willing to put the work in, who can raise their performance levels. Rangers' careers are there to be snatched if you want them. If you don't, well, off you pop. Now there's the door.
Yeah, I was reading a bit about the manager, just talking about style of football, Chris, there, as you touched on at the start of that answer. One of the words that he uses an awful lot is verticality. It's just a fancy way of saying getting the ball quicker forward. I expect that what we're going to see is quickly that Borna Barisic look forward, see the pass isn't on, reverse back to Davies, who passes to Goldson, who passes to Tavernier, who passes back to Goldson, who comes forward, who has a look, who knocks it to Lundstrom, who knocks it back to Davies. I don't think that's going to be stood for anymore. But one of the things that I think for Celtic worked so well for Ange Postecoglou, remember that whole thing, whenever anyone passed back, he would go absolutely mental, and there was videos of him on the touchline, basically having an aneurysm when somebody was not being brave with the ball. And Clement kind of touched on this when he said about the lack of confidence with the way they were moving the ball. And I think that's what he was referencing, the sort of verticality of the play of the team, being brave, always looking to go forward. And I think that should be something that we see come the game against Hibs, because this is a manager, I think, that understands Rangers need to be relentless in getting the ball forward at all times. They need to be brave. They need to stand up to the pressure of the crowd. Although I do think that's symbiotic. I think that's part of it. The crowd getting back behind these players, certainly behind this manager, and giving them a chance to implement his ideas, because Ibrox can be a place that can make you, but it can also break you. And we've seen that so many times over the years. It'll be interesting to see what the reaction is today, but it's up, the weekend, but it's up to the players to give the fans something to chew over. Listen, one of the other questions that we've got here from Maka. Morning, guys. Contradictory reports today about Sam Jewell for Director of Football. What's your opinion? Now, Chris, you were off yesterday, so I don't know how on top of this you were, but Joshua did say that he did some digging and was told pretty confidently that this was just not correct. Having said that, it has come from Fabrizio Romano, who well, certainly in Scottish football terms, I'm not sure if I've ever seen him get anything wrong. So it's a bit of a curious one.
I think in a wider sense, it's a position that Rangers clearly have to fill, and it's something also James Bisgrove was asked actually quite extensively about at his press conference on Tuesday alongside the manager. I think that highlighted just how important that position is going to be. Rangers have been working away on that in the background. James can outline some of that process, and there's a bit of goodbye to his head. It could be weeks, it could be months, it could be imminent. I don't think there's a set timescale on it. The dual name was one that came out the other day there. I actually spoke to someone about it the other day there, and just like the responses from sources at the club yesterday that Josh had and the others had, it seems to have been knocked in the head. So I don't think that's one that looks likely now. But in terms of the position, it's certainly something that Rangers have to do. I asked James about that on Tuesday. He said the manager will have some form of input into that process, obviously, because he's going to have to work with them. It's something that I have spoken about throughout the interview process with Philippe Clement. But ultimately, it will be a board decision because I think, as myself and Josh talked about in the video after the presser, the board have to get this one right. Rangers have had a number of cracks at this role in terms of recruitment or sporting director over the last couple of seasons now. They've not quite got it right. The next man that comes in has to be here for the long term. We need someone that's not going to fail after 2 bad transfer windows and then be out the door. That completely defeats the entire purpose of that role. If you're going to do that, you as well just giving the manager the checkbook and say, right, on you go and do it. If the signings are good, you keep your job. If they're not and they're rubbish, then you're out the door. So Rangers do need stability. I think that the fans would like to hear more of a long-term vision in terms of how the football department's going to operate, in terms of again, James mentioned the other day, this data-driven scouting system they put in place. I think it'd be good for the fans to have a bit more insight into how that's actually going to work. I think they'd like to see Rangers go into different markets because we do need to put value back in the squad, need to put value back on the balance sheet, because the signings for too long have not been good enough. And you look at some of the clubs down south, obviously Brighton, Sam Jewell is at, Brentford obviously a big success story as well. There's no reason why Rangers, with the facilities and the platform they can give players, we should be able to go and attract up-and-coming players that can then sell on for big money. It's not happened often enough over the last few years, and I think it'd be good if the club could provide some form of framework into how that is actually going to operate, regardless of who this director of football, technical director, whatever you want to call it, regardless of who that person's actually going to be.
Yeah. Now, listen, I as usual, very unprofessional at the start, forgot to give the sponsor a wee nod. So I'm going to do that now, Chris, midway through. Not very skillfully, but I'm going to try it. As you can see above my head, we're sponsored by MPH Group. The morning briefing is brought to you by them. They're Scotland's award-winning family-run all-trade specialists covering all of mainland Scotland. Every service you opt for automatically enters you into MPH's incredible holiday giveaway. You could win a 7-night stay at the luxurious 5-star Moon Palace Resort in Cancun, Mexico. So if you're looking to get any work done in your house, these are the guys to go to. And if you go into the description of the video, all their details are in there. They're all over social media, of course, as well as their website. So definitely someone to think about if you're getting something done in your house. Now, we've got a few people who have been getting in on the action with our YouTube member scheme. Thank you to Graham Robb, who's joined up. It's $2.99 a month, and you get a load of extra content, videos that no one else gets, and you get all our videos ad-free as well. And we've got William, who has gifted One Rangers Review membership, which you can grab if you're quick. So thank you for doing that, William. It's there to be grabbed, so grab it. Absolutely free, thanks to him gifting it. So that's terrific. Thanks for that, guys. We'll move on to another question now. One I've got here from Gaz Jones. He said, actually, you know what? Before I go to Gaz's question, Chris, there was one thing I wanted to put to you. Now, a lot of discussion, Chris, about Clement being a big bloke 6'3". I think it's fair to say he looks after himself. Wide as he is tall. Do you think this is an advantage, or are we being a bit of slightly anachronistic and a bit old farty and kind of looking back to a time that doesn't really exist? For me, I think it is still something that matters in Scottish football. Having a big, powerful guy in a dressing room that you don't want to mess with just gives you an extra boost. It's not going to change if you're a good manager or not, but it gives you a bit of a boost. What's your thoughts?
Without sounding as if we're harking back to the 1960s and 70s, I think there is actually something in that, Johnny. I think a Rangers manager has to have a certain presence and a certain aura about him. I think if you look at the most successful ones, like say Jock Wallace, Souness, Walter, certainly, Big Eck, they all had that kind of X factor about them. It's quite hard to put your finger on sometimes, but they go in to a dressing room and command respect, in some cases because of what they've done as a player, in some cases just because of what they do as a manager. And ultimately, you need players to play for you. You have to be, no matter how good you are technically and tactically as a coach, no matter how good your training sessions are, no matter how good the facilities at Auchenhowie are, if you are a manager that players don't want to play for, you won't be a success. And hopefully Clement is able to tick those boxes. I think that leadership and that personality, man management, they were all the kind of buzzwords that James Bisgrove used in his press conference. It's all the aspects that the board and the club were looking for in terms of their next manager. You had to have a track record in terms of winning, but I think you had to have that presence about him as well. And as you say, Johnny, as soon as he walked into the blue room that day there, you thought, no, this is a guy that's got that stature. Now time will tell. Time will tell if he's a good coach. Time will tell if he can put on a good session. Time will tell if he knows how to change games in games, and if he knows how to win matches in Scottish football. But I think it does help having that aura, having that X factor. I think the last man to have that was Steven Gerrard, and that obviously worked out not too badly in terms of winning the title. So I think it is important. It does sound a bit, as it harking back to the old times, but I think it is important. You have to have, as Pete said there, that father figure that can just get the best out of players, and no matter what line of work you're in, you have to want to succeed for the man that's a gaffer, and you have to have that professional pride in yourself, obviously. So no, fingers crossed that Clement can take that stature into the dressing room and make a real impact.
Yeah, you've got to take the sugar with the salt, Chris, as we're about to find out here. Blue Nose John says, great insight, Johnny and Chris. Keep up the good work. Whereas we've also got a slightly unhappy James Baxter who says, what's going on? Chris rubbished this on Monday morning. Chris, are you having a vote faccia here or something? What's going on?
Who am I rubbishing?
No, I think you rubbished this notion of the large manager being having an impact based on his size.
I can't remember talking about that on Monday morning. I think the last time I spoke about it was actually with Josh on the video post presser, and I rhymed off the same Walter, Souness, Big Eck names on that one as well. So I don't recall rubbishing Philippe Clement's stature, because I certainly wouldn't do, because he's bigger than me.
That's a denial, James. That's a firm denial. And William Smith saying 8 million for Butland. I'm not going to repeat that part. Hibs fan, low blowing our players as usual. Sorry about that, William. I'm just trying to give a realistic valuation of a player. So we have to take the rough for the smooth, Chris. This is part of being on the video in the wild and wonderful world of all the comments. So thank you, William, for getting in touch. But I don't know, 8 million was the first thing that came to my head that seemed reasonable. Maybe I'm wrong. We'll see. As Chris says, it's the market that ultimately decides how much each individual player is worth. Right, listen, guys, we've been on for nearly half an hour. We're going to have to call it a day. Both myself and Chris have got things to go and get our teeth into today. So thanks very much for joining us. As ever, if you want to support what we do, we thank you for coming on live. We thank you for watching these videos. But of course, if you want to take it to the next level, and we hope you do, come onto the website and subscribe. You get all the pieces that we do every day, real deep dive insight into Rangers. Not only all the latest news as it happens, but you get features, interviews, tactical analysis, and all the rest that we do here on the YouTube channel, etc., etc. We can't do it without your support, so please go on there. I think at the moment it's £4 for 4 months. Then it goes on to the standard £2.99 deal, or if you want to back us for a year, it's 18 quid. I mean, not an awful lot of pints for your 18 quid nowadays. I was in town last week. I think it was about £6.20 for a pint. So there you go. I think it's about 3 pints worth. So that's what to do if you want to get behind us. Go on to www.rangersreview.com/subscribe. Until next time, guys, thank you very much for joining us. And we'll see you tomorrow on the morning brief at 7:30.